joining us today. So, in the background, you heard the Sam Cooke's, the anthem of American Civil Rights Movement. Um, thank you very much, everyone. I welcome everyone. Welcome to Morgan State University Research and Scholarship Webinar Series. This is organized by the School of Education and Urban Studies in collaboration with the Division of Academic Affairs, International Affairs, and the Star Scholars. This month, we are celebrating Black History Month in the United States. Black History Month honors the contribution and sacrifices of African Americans who helped shape the nation. This tradition started 96 years ago by Carter Woodson in 1928. In a few minutes, you will hear from our panelists, guests, and other scholars about internationalization programs, initiatives, and experiences at historically Black colleges and universities, also from other PWI's scenarios. Great. My name is Krishna Bista, Professor of Higher Education in the Department of Advanced Studies, Leadership, and Policy at Morgan State University. I'm also the founding editor of the Journal of International Students, which ranked number 10 among higher education journals. We have 70 minutes ahead of us. In the room, I see many familiar faces, of course, expert in the field whom I had an opportunity to work together over the years. I also see new guests. Welcome, everyone. And also today's contest, in the context of today's topic, we are here to understand and explore how international, intercultural, and global dimension integrate into our curriculum and teaching. We are here to share exemplary international and intercultural programs, best practices of internationalization at HBCUs, and also we are here to celebrate the successful program that connects our nation's HBCUs internationally, globally. As you see on my screen, more than 347,000 students pursue a wide range of degrees at historically Black colleges and universities in the US, and nearly 7,000 of them are international students from around the globe. Although you can see slight decline in the last few years, majority of the international students at HBCUs come from sub-Saharan African, Latin American, and Caribbean countries. As you see here, 59% of them pursue STEM degrees. And Julie and I had the opportunity to write extensively on this topic in one of our chapters. Compared to international students, only 0.7% of 347,000 students who attend HBCU participated in study abroad in a various destination. The diversity of the location is likely due to the number of factors, such as the historic relationship, student interest in the heritage study abroad, and the scholarship programs in particular countries, and also, of course, the affordable destination, particularly in Latin America and Caribbean, as you see on my screen here. So today, HBCUs are global institutions, and their global footprints are recognized as they allow African American students to engage internationally, as well as they welcome international students around the globe. So we begin the programs with the short remarks from Vice Provost of Internationalization and Equity at Emerson College, Dr. Tony Pinder. He is my co-editor of this volume on reimagining internationalization and international initiatives at historically Black college and university. It took more than 2 years of making and collaborating with our contributors from 10 HBCUs. And the good news is this book is coming out next month from Palgrave Macmillan. So now, Brother Tony, over to you for a brief remarks.
Greetings, everybody. Thank you, Krishna. First, I just want to thank Krishna publicly for inviting me and approaching me to partner with him on this really important volume. I think in the national discussion and national dialogue regarding internationalization and comprehensive internationalization, HBCUs are often overlooked and sort of undervalued in terms of our contribution. And so one of the things I wanted to just highlight just for some context, just tell you how wonderful the world is. So Krishna and I were introduced through mutual contacts at ACE. And he had this amazing idea to put together the first ever volume of essays on internationalization from just rock star contributors that contributed chapters to our book. He was quite prolific already on his own in terms of writing and publishing in this area. And I think the idea was because I had worked in 2 decades at 4 institutions as a senior international officer. 2 of those institutions were Morehouse College, my alma mater, and Dillard University, as well as Georgia Gwinnett College, and now at Emerson College. Also, my dissertation actually was on this very subject almost 13, 14 years ago. So I think someone thought that we were a perfect marriage in terms of both lived experiences in this work, he at Morgan and me at other places, and to come together. One of the things I just wanted to close out with is just, it's interesting. Anything in any time that you look at where we are or where we're headed on any subject, it's important to understand where we come from. And so it was very, very important for us to treat in a historical context the experience that HBCUs have had with internationalization. They have always been international. They have always been global. And from the very sort of constructions of their visions and missions back in the 1800s, there was always an unmistakable global vision aggressively coming out of the charter missions of these HBCUs. And just to highlight it, just in terms of international student matriculation, that began for HBCUs in the early 1800s with the likes of some 23 South African graduates coming out of Lincoln University between 1896 and 1923. The great feminist, South African feminist Charlotte Maye was first female to graduate, African female to graduate from the American Institution from Wilberforce in 1901. During the 1930s, 3 African graduates of HBCUs would go on to be the first presidents of their nations, Malawi, Nigeria, and Ghana. And then in terms of just the dual, we hear a lot about the dual responsibilities of education of HBCUs, right? That Du Bois great duality description with a very social, ethical, responsible mission produced people like Anna Julia Cooper, who became one of the first Black females to get a PhD from the Sorbonne and only the 4th African-American woman to get a PhD in the nation's history. And she would go on to become a major quote in the middle passages of your passport, as well as Oliver Golden, who took the first delegation of agronomists and agriculturalists over to Russia to look at cotton production and other agricultural pursuits there as well. So we've always been this way. We have always had this focus on internationalization. And I think it was just really important for us in the volume to treat that so that we knew where we come from, we know where we're going. We've always been a leadership production in terms of what we've done with leaders in a production with global competence. So I want to kind of end there because the content and some of the other wonderful discussions that are going to ensue really help shape and really show how far we've come in this regard. So Krisha, I'll give my time back. And thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Pinders. I appreciate. Now we go to the much weighted discussion, and please use your chat room to use the prompts are there to share your experiences at your institutions. It could be the study abroad, international student, or any of the other international initiatives. So I have invited many of our colleagues from representing different HBCUs across the country to share their experiences and the work based on the chapter contribution or collaboration we work over the years. So we begin with the first scholar. I request Dr. Charity Clay, who wrote a chapter with the signature study abroad program at Xavier University. Dr. Clay, if you are here, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So, my name is Dr. Charity Clay. I'm a professor in the Department of Sociology and the program of African American and Diaspora Studies at Xavier University in New Orleans, Louisiana. And I wrote a chapter that was informed by both my experiences as a student at a PWI and as a professor at an HBCU. So just a little quick background I went to DePaul University in Chicago initially on a basketball scholarship, and unfortunately, I was hit by a car, ended my basketball career, but it really tuned me into the academic side. I got some mentors, and I really started realizing how important faculty mentorship is to the success of students on campus. Specifically in my case, as a Black student at a PWI, seeking out not just Black professors, but professors who understood the experiences of students who also have to work, or students who aren't from the area or don't have a strong network in their community. And one of my professors suggested that I do study abroad. At my university, study abroad was connected to majors. So every major had a couple of study abroad programs you could choose from. So I was public policy and accounting major, and I took a trip to the EU, 3 cities in the EU, where we studied. I was doing a comparative study between public housing in Amsterdam and public housing in Chicago. What I didn't expect or wasn't prepared for was how alienated I could feel in another country, right? Not only was I the only Black student on the trip, I was the only student who didn't have a lot of money, had never traveled internationally previously. So and the things that we were doing didn't resonate at all with anything I was interested in. You know, we were going to museums, and we were talking about, you know, great European civilizations. And, you know, it was almost as there was no African influence in any of these European countries, which I knew kind of wasn't the truth. So when I started teaching, but I had a great experience. I learned a lot, you know, traveling. So I always advocated for it. But when I got to Xavier, I really wanted to help students have opportunities to go abroad that weren't like mine, where they didn't feel alienated, where they didn't feel disconnected from their peers and also their professors and the curriculum. So what I wanted to do was first figure out why it is that HBCU students, why the study abroad numbers aren't as high. Because what we're always told is that it's because students don't have the money, and that students may not understand the value of some of these programs. So I wanted to look at how those narratives are shaped and how they inform the way we develop study abroad programs. So I, you know, use Qualtrics survey for different HBCU students. I got students. I didn't get a lot of East Coast students. So most of the students are from the Gulf South, right? And Florida, a little bit up to South Carolina, but I didn't get much of the East Coast schools. But it was interesting because the findings show that it wasn't so much that they didn't have the money, it was that there are commitments that prevent them from doing semester-long programs, right? So it's not necessarily I can't get the money for the program, but I may not be able to miss 3 weeks of work or my family commitments. So I realized that financial commitments, right, are not the same as a lack of financial resources. So just kind of reframing how we understand that was a big thing. And then the second thing in my surveys that came out was that a lot of students don't see programs where they want to go, right? There's a very small percentage of, and I can't remember the name, Dr. Pender, thank you so much for providing that history and that acknowledgement of how international HBCUs are, because the students who come here, they come for a specific type of diasporic engagement, whether it be through faculty, through classes, through curriculum. So when HBCU study abroad programs don't provide opportunities throughout the diaspora, it's not that they don't see the value of the programs, is that programs are sometimes defined in value by Eurocentrism, right? So it's not necessarily that they don't want to go study abroad, but they don't necessarily want to go to Rome or Israel, right? Or Beijing, instead of having the opportunity to go to, and not just, you know, the coastal cities, but, you know, I have students who want to go to Zimbabwe or Zambia or Chad or Niger or all these places, and they don't see the opportunities. So it's not that they don't see the value of the programs is that the programs that are often provided aren't the ones that they value, and other opportunities aren't readily presented. Another thing I found was trust factor, right? Students not wanting to go abroad with people that they don't trust in terms of I'll say this is a lot based on our model. So we don't have an institutionalized model at Xavier. What our current model is to do is to support students with third-party opportunities. And a lot of our students, they say, well, I would rather go with faculty that I have relationships with cohorts of students, not just Xavier students, but other HBCU students that I feel that I could have a more enriching opportunity with. So my research kind of looks at how what institutionalization looks like from a faculty leadership standpoint. I've been fortunate enough to take students to Senegal a couple of times, develop some classes around that, but understanding the investment in faculty and curriculum that institutions will need to make those sustainable, because it is a lot to do. So that's kind of where my research is. So I work with the program. Actually, two Morehouse alum created a program called PASSI, Planting a Seed International. And what their goal essentially is to take HBCU students, not just from one school, but any HBCUs students can attend, and they have programs in West Africa. So kind of working with them to see if my idea is perhaps maybe an HBCU study abroad consortium, right? Big Ten and other conferences and stuff have consortiums that pool resources together. So the kind of next step of my research is what it looks like to pilot opportunities that involve multiple universities, specifically for programs that link curriculum to the diaspora. So excited to be invited for a chapter, excited to read everyone's work and collaborate with folks in the future. So thanks for having me. Apologize for being long-winded.
Thank you, Dr. Clay. Appreciate it. Now, let's hear from Dr. Soji Okomolafe from North Florida State University on why African studies matter in internationalization. Dr. Soji, you are here. Continue. I can invite him later on. So for another 2 minutes remarks, let's move to North Carolina AT&T. Dr. Caroline Brooks, she will highlight the faculty readiness in internationalization plans. Dr. Brooks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Kay Burks. I work over at North Carolina A&T in the Leadership Studies, Adult Education, and School Admin Department as an assistant professor. So I'll give you a quick background on why I'm so passionate about this topic of internationalization for HBCUs. I have worked and lived abroad. I have worked in K-12 education as an international principal over in the Middle East for several years. And I was so excited when I transitioned into higher ed, thinking that I can bring my experience with me, making sure that our HBCU students had exposure to some of these programs, some of these countries, and making sure that they knew what opportunities were out there. What I found was that there was really no strategic approach at my current university as well as my past university about how to get faculty involved in this initiative. So I felt like there was a disconnect. We want to make sure that our students are having these opportunities, they know about these opportunities and know how to access these opportunities. But for me, that started back with the faculty. So my chapter was on rethinking faculty readiness in these internationalization plans at our HBCUs. And what that means is that we want to make sure that our faculty know their role in these plans. They need to know about the plans. Typically, every HBCU, of course, has a plan. But what I'm finding is that those conversations around the plan typically happens at the top. And it doesn't really trickle down to our faculty where they understand what their role is in implementing these plans with their students. How can they help their students understand how to use this to benefit them and to benefit their education? So with the research of ACE's comprehensive international framework, I developed a faculty readiness model that institutions can use to guide these conversations to help bring faculty readiness to the top as a major priority. So that first area looking at faculty education, helping faculty to understand, yes, we have internationalization plans, where these plans are housed, how do I access these plans, and how do I get myself as a faculty, particularly junior faculty, how do I get myself involved in these types of conversations? My second part of that readiness model is on faculty training. So helping faculty to update their old curriculums to be more globally focused. So not just telling faculty to update, but providing training around what that looks like in practice, I think is vitally important. And then my third part of that model is faculty networking. So providing opportunities for faculty to meet and share and talk about their internationalization activities, if someone's doing it. There's always pockets of faculty doing things that sometimes don't seem to rise to the surface. And I think particularly for junior faculty, we need to know what's out there and how we can get involved as faculty and how we can get our students involved. So I think that whole faculty networking / mentoring is something that's very well needed. And that's it for me. Any questions
Thank
on that,
you.
guys? Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Brooks.
Yep.
We'll take the question in a few minutes.
Okay, groovy.
Let's go around for the 2 minutes remarks. We have a few scholars here. Go to Dr. Michael Smithy, Editor-in-Chief of International Research and Review. He's here with us to say about faculty publication and how it helps internationalization. Over to you, Dr. Smithy. Mike, over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's very. I'm delighted to be here and to talk with you about my own research and activities. I have to say that I was invited to speak to and collaborate with faculty at Albany State University in Georgia about 5 or so years ago. And as a result, there were some activities that resulted in some publications. But that led me to think about how much faculty in HBCUs had actually published, or what I want to say is contributed to other faculty understanding about what internationalization is. And so, especially internationalization of the curriculum and an effort to help their students with learning about the global economy and the global world, so to speak. During the beginning of the COVID crisis, I began to research through the web because I couldn't go to any libraries. And so what I did was I found 192 useful publications using variations on the term of internationalization of the curriculum. And figure 1, as you can see, shows the frequency of publications between 1972 and 2020. And the HBCUs are in blue. I'm sorry, the non-HBCUs are in blues and the HBCUs are in orange. And as you can see, the HBCUs did not really join the conversation about this topic until roughly 2011, 2012, and so on. In fact, Dr. Pender's was one of the earlier publications that began to galvanize this thinking. Thank you, Dr. Pender. And then on figure 2, if you will show that, Krishna, figure 2 shows the focus of published articles. And what I used was an instructional design model of ADDIE to look at the categories that emerged from those 192 articles. And I found that they fell into 3 categories. One was front end, that is, what should we do? The second was implementation, is how should we do it? And the third was back end, and that is an evaluation and an assessment and reflection of what was done. And as you can see, the back end contribution is the smallest, and that is where the faculty come in from my point of view. What I found in this research was that faculty respond to development programs seeking to engage them in internationalizing the curriculum, and also respond to those programs in which they are encouraged to write about their experiences, because that helps them think through the process, but it also helps them alert other faculty as to how that process works. I appreciate Dr. Burks and Dr. Clay's comments about faculty networks and getting together and meeting and helping each other think through these processes. Also, I found that reflection of the faculty on the process of developing international curriculum is highly relevant to moving the needle for internationalization at institutions and for students itself as well. This reflection is likely to affect other faculty and administrators. And this is the intent of some of the key institutions that are promoting internationalization of the curriculum, the University of Minnesota and Indiana University, IUPUI, Purdue University of Indianapolis. I also found that some disciplines are very active in internationalizing, for example, nursing, geography, teacher education, and so on. However, I also found that there were only two major volumes that dealt with multidisciplinary faculty reflections about their experiences with internationalizing the curriculum, and those were published by non-HBCUs. However, in 2015, I was fortunate to be able to assist in HBCU faculty from Albany State University in Georgia, publishing their multidisciplinary reflections on internationalizing the curriculum. And I did that in my journal, which is the International Research and Review. We do have another second version of that coming out. In fact, in this spring in 2022, we were able to do that. So in conclusion, I found that given that virtual learning has modified the concept of student mobility, I think more research is needed in internationalizing the curriculum, and especially in terms of internationalizing at home, which is a slightly different concept and one that should be attended to as well. And also, more research is needed on learning via virtual international education environment, because now that COVID has forced us into a hybrid situation of having face-to-face classes as well as virtual learning, in fact, virtual learning has become feasible, more feasible than it ever was. And this allows for all kinds of interesting aspects of learning abroad, especially as you were saying in Zambia or Uganda or many African countries that students wish to visit, but have commitments that they they can't actually physically explore that, but they can go virtually. We need to know how that affects intercultural learning, intercultural competencies, and competition in the marketplace. And so those are some things that I think we should be looking out for in the future. And I thank you for your time and invite questions when you have them.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciated for taking time to write the chapter and also sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Moving on to the agenda of the writing, research, and publication in HBCUs, I have a special guest here to talk about a special project, none other than my big sister, Dr. Adele Newson-Hurst. She's leading a project called Global Footprints in Higher Education, documenting cross-cultural experience of the faculty and the students. This is a wonderful project. It's in the process. Over to you, Dr. Newsom-Hurst.
Well, thank you, my little brother. First, let me say, Dr. Vista is an amazing human being. He captures, I'm in the College of Liberal Arts. He's over in the College School of Education here at Morgan State University. And I just have to say, he is what I would consider a true university citizen. I don't quite remember how we met, but we're joined at the hip now. So thank you. So we think, what better way to both internationalize and leverage our international students than to invite them to share narratives of their experiences. So this is what Dr. Vista and I have done. We invited undergraduate students, graduate students, and faculty to contribute to global footprints in higher education, cross-cultural experiences of students and faculty at Morgan State University. And I have to say, the project has been amazing. The narratives cover a multiplicity of experiential learning, from formal programs like Fulbright to informal encounters, to travel, to attend conferences, to volunteerism. And briefly, one student endured 15 hours of travel amid the COVID pandemic to enroll in our engineering program. Yet another student experienced art in a foreign land that provided a corrective to historical records. Comparing Morgan State University's educational system to his home country's approach to teaching, a student found that he had to adjust his learning style from a passive one to an active one, where he discovered that his MSU professors actually had an interest in his ideas. So yet another student realized, coming from a nation where socialism and charity were instilled in me as a child, I was taken aback by realizing that I had landed in a universe of individuality. So that's only a sampling of what is in this volume. We're excited. What we're learning is from faculty and students alike. It's discovery. Yes, they went, they're back, they're reflecting on the experience, and they're discovering new and exciting things. And so just to close, I'd like to say, this demonstrates the importance of such books in fostering greater impact on institutional and international footprints and adding value to the work of both students and faculty. Secondly, it demonstrates visibility of institutions towards international expansion, cross-cultural competence, and development. So thank you, my brother, and I'm pleased to meet all of you and to hear what wonderful things you're doing at your institutions.
Thank you, my big sister. Appreciate it. So moving on, in the audience, I'd like to remind you that we have 30 minutes or so for the entire discussion on the very topics. So we have one more guest to chime in and share her quick experience in less than 2 minutes. Dr. Susan Beaufort, author, who wrote a chapters focusing on experiences of Black African international faculty members. This was published in one of the books that I co-edited with my colleagues, Chris Glass and Dr. C. Lin. So this is her chapter, and now over to you, Dr. Author.
Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing awesome this morning. Yes, I did write a chapter in this book, The Experiences of International Faculty in Institutions of Higher Education. And my chapter focused on the experiences of Black African international students. So I did want to share, and I think I put that in the chat box as well, that for individuals from Africa, and then I'm going to narrow it down to Sub-Saharan Africa, that study abroad is not necessarily a semester away or 2 weeks away, as most individuals in the United States kind of like imagine when they think study abroad. For us, it's more of leaving your country and going to study internationally for an extended period of time. And so even though individuals from African countries fall under the category of study abroad, they are more of like long-term study international students. And once they transition from that, and let's say they get into, higher education, their experiences seem significantly different or markedly different from that of the regular individual with, who has African descent. And so in this chapter that I wrote, I explored what some of those experiences are. And so oftentimes it seems like, in terms of the workforce, first of in higher education for individuals of color in higher education, I think we will all acknowledge that there is some difficulty there, especially if you are somebody, of color, especially if you have African descent. But then it gets, I think, those experiences or negativities, it seems, gets worsened when you are African, and especially when you are not born and raised in the United States. And so it seems like the negativities double or maybe even triple at times for that. And so you may find yourself, a lot of individuals of African descent know that they have to work twice as hard. But then if you are from Africa, that directly from Africa, like myself, you are not working, twice as hard. You find yourself maybe working, triple times or maybe even quadruple times more to offset some negativities that may come up, as a result of that. And then also when you are directly, you didn't grow up in the United States. And I think when you grow up in the United States, you have a greater sense of awareness of the complexities of race and color and how that influences, the framework of life in the United States. But when you did not grow up here and you are coming from, an African country, it's different, especially if, you've never had that type of experience. And so for individuals who are Black African, when they move into the United States, and they are moving into the realm of higher education, there's a struggle there, there's this challenge there with regards to how they navigate those experiences, with regards to how, they can transition fully into their role of being, a Black African faculty member, maybe even at a PWI or an HBCU. And with the work I did in the chapter I wrote for Black African faculty who were at HBCUs, it was found out that their experiences were more in line, not with what they know, but more in line with their accents and so on and so forth. Whereas for Black African faculty who were at at PWIs, their struggles were more in terms of, did they really know what they purpose to know? Their struggles were more in terms of classroom incivilities from students and other faculty and so on and so forth. And then also this notion that, they could ask for help, and that even if they did ask for help, then that meant that they still were not qualified enough. And so there are all of these negative ideologies and stereotypes that they have to combat in terms of being able to work effectively in their fields that other people do not necessarily experience. And so in that chapter, I described all of these things and how that impacts their work and their ability to contribute effectively to the colleges that they work at. This is not to say that there are no benefits, that it's all negative. No, I talk about the positives as well, that they contribute to the, framework of the institution. They sometimes negative. No, I talk about the positives as well, that they contribute to the, framework of the institution. They sometimes establish, study abroad programs that work to take, students back into, African countries to explore and examine those places and things like that. However, these are all challenges that they sometimes encounter. So that in sum was what my chapter was about. Thank you all for listening.
So now we go to panel discussion. We have a very important question here. And now is the time for the reflection to the bigger question of the day. So let's hear from Morehouse. Kofi, would you like to share your thoughts, comments from Morehouse? And then the panelists also can.
And one of the things we found was, even though the opportunities were made available, we still didn't get enough student participation. It's this concept of working and studying abroad, in addition to medical school, I think has added more burden than most people wish to bear during their medical school years. So I just received a supplement to research what are the barriers, and a lot of the work you all have already done in your book that's coming out. I can't wait to see it and work with it to help figure out where the bottlenecks are so that we can open up opportunities for students and faculty to work and study abroad under a mentored research relationship.
Thank you. Any of our panelists want to chime in, or any, a scholar from the audience wants to share your effective programs or the signature programs related to study abroad or internationalization? In the room, we have also Dr. Ling Gao from Syracuse University. She's the director of international program and also work with the HBCUs and written a chapter. Any other colleagues in the room want to say it?
So currently at my institution, I do not know of any internationalization initiatives, but when I was in grad school, I did my grad school at Mississippi State University, and I know they had study abroad offices and things like that that they were engaged in. But I think that really when we are looking at study abroad and having students move from, let's say, the United States elsewhere, there needs to be a campaign in terms of educating individuals on where it is that they are going. If we find that, a lot of places they are going to are more or less like the United States, maybe we want to look at exploring other countries that they may not necessarily have considered, but then maybe interested in going to. And I'm saying this also because when I was younger, when I was growing up in Ghana and I was at the University of Ghana for my undergrad, there was a group of students who used to come to the University of Ghana from the University of California school system, and they would come each semester to explore Ghana, to study for either a semester or a year. And I was one of the individuals that was kind of like one of the Ghanaians working with these international students to get them acclimated to Ghana and to take them to different places in Ghana. And how did they learn about that? They learned about that because there was an office that was dedicated to selling Ghana and the University of Ghana and the universities in Ghana to the students in that population. And so it's important that I think it's important that if we want to sell other destinations besides Europe to students as study abroad destinations, that we then market, because they need to see the reason why it's beneficial to go there. They need to see why it's important for them to connect to some of these other countries. They need to see what the benefit will be, what will be the rationale, how are they going to be safe, all of those things, that questions that people would have. And I know this once again because in my interactions with the students from the UC program, these were concerns their families had. These were, for some of them, these were concerns, the reasons why their parents will call them every day, like I used to say, because everybody seems to think that the minute you get to Africa, some lion is eating you up, but that's not the truth. Exactly. And so we need to be able to market and explain and let people feel safe first, and then I think they'll buy into that. So those were my 2 cents regarding that.
Dr. Bister, can I just add something?
Please, yes.
Okay, so I'm really happy to say that Morgan State University leads all the other HBCUs in the number of students who have participated in the Fulbright program. And I think that's quite an achievement. I just wanted to add that. And our largest international population comes from Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and from Saudi Arabia, actually.
Thank you.
Just from my experience, whenever I came India for my research studies, then I found myself that there are different cross-cultural identities. And similarly, academic and administrative practices and different opportunity dimensions regarding to teaching, research, and collaboration. This is most important part for us, like the researchers, for all academicians. And similarly, I found out in my observation in the university, where in this Chandigarh University, I found a greater movement, mobility of the faculties from here to other universities, different universities in US and Europe, similarly in other countries, in Nepal, in Bhutan, and the professors of that countries and that universities also had good mobility over here. Similarly, they have the student exchange program, similarly semester exchange program also they have been initiating that I found very good. And like they are also initiating different collaborative efforts in research, seminar, publications, and conferences. That's why here I found that these theme-based discussions and these collaborative efforts, and one very interesting thing I found here, one regarding to publication, for the faculties, they make the mandatory of Scopus-based indexed publications, by which their impact factor can be higher one, and they can have the higher level of the achievements. That's why this cross-cultural identities and new experiences, I'm getting this one, and by this thing, I could transform these abilities to my universities in Nepal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Um, any other notes regarding the collaboration? Then the Dr. Kisa Abraham is ready. She will talk about her book and some of her observation, the programs, and internationalization, and she's at AIEA conference. Kisa, over to you.
Hi there. It's my mic was hiding there. It's so great that this event is happening. Thank you so much, Dr. Bishta, for this opportunity to speak a bit about another project that is highlighting the work that we're doing at our institutions to grow education abroad capacity. There is so much that we need to continue to do to uplift the capacity at HBCUs and worldwide for understanding our educational model. I'm a very proud alum of Spelman College and have taught at a range of different HBCUs in different capacities, working with people to really help us see what is beautiful about our experience at HBCUs and how that translates into a global context. So the book that we're working on right now, it's called The Half Yet to Be Told, Education Abroad at HBCUs. It involves, I think, a number of people on this call right now. And we try to engage with many institutions as possible, really talking about an assets-based approach to considering what's happening in education abroad for HBCUs in particular, because so much of the work that has happened prior to, I'd say, 2020, really, prior to that, so much of the work had really been looking at a deficit kind of model when we look at international education as a field of considering what happens at our institution type. So we know inside, right? We know at our schools what's beautiful about us. We know at our schools how important global learning is. We know at our schools the way that we have always been global, even if the stories haven't all been unified or synchronized, so that new faculty come in, new administration comes in and knows that we have this as a footprint. And so a lot of what the work is that we're currently trying to do, I think, is to really expand our sense of cultural engagement within our institution type, and then within the field of international education, so that what's beautiful about HBCU experiences in a global context can really be shared, valued, and appreciated to the best of its ability.
Thank you so much. I can speak of the Morgan State University. We have entire international affairs division of international affairs with the staff and program resources. We used to have around 1,000 international students. Right now, because of the pandemic, the number is declined. But we are working hard to increase the enrollment, also expanding programs. The university has opened a branch campus in Ghana, as well as many other collaboration in Asian universities. Now we have about 20%, no, actually 40% international faculty, and also building relationship from their networks and expanding the program and the resources, and also opening a brand new interdisciplinary college with several doctoral, masters, and undergraduate programs on the top of existing programs and models. Okay, with that, any other questions we have, please use your digital hand raise or unmute your microphone and you can share your thoughts or comments. Okay, Dr. Lingao, I see.
Yes. So, okay. So, yeah, I want to follow up with what Dr. Krista just mentioned, how to empower international students. So right now, in my new institution, Syracuse University, actually my role is very focusing, is on international student academic success. So I do not work in the International Affairs Center or International Student Service Center. My role is focused on academic success. So based on my research, also my work experience, I feel like international student academic learning is really an area that has been overlooked. So on many campuses, we have lots of traditional approaches. We have, international services office, international student office. We offer immigration advising. We have social groups. We have English, everything like that. However, how international students learn, how can they learn better? So how do they really learn in our classrooms? So that's the area I think that has been overlooked. And then, so in the past 2 years, basically, so I think that my institution right now, Syracuse University, took the initiative creating a position. So like this for international student success, my position is housed in College of Arts and Science, Maxwell School of Public Affairs. So in the past 2 years, I have learned so much. So, and then, and also I have received lots of support from professionals in the field. And then right now I'm collaborating with Nakata. We are going to create advising communities specifically for advising international students. So support their academic and career success. So I think I'm excited about that. And then, so yeah, perhaps in the future meetings, everything, if any update, I would like to share with colleagues here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, talking about the research and scholarship that Mike pointed out earlier, we do have a few upcoming, initiatives, the books and then journals. For the last couple of years, we started with the 33 book proposals, and about half of them have published. And also, we have a network of 8 professional journals in our platform. So please feel free to reach out to us if you have any manuscript that you are interested in publishing. These are the publishing partner: Routledge, Springer, Palgrave Macmillan, including our open journals in education. Many of them are on a wide range of K-12 to higher education areas. And then Dr. Lin Gao is also one of our editors in the book project, in our journals. So please feel free to reach out to us for your upcoming manuscript. There is no fees to publish with any of these journals or book projects. And also we thank to Emerson College for the publication partners who has provided support to our open access journals. We also publish in other languages, including Chinese, Spanish, and Arabic. We are working on some of these multilingual editions. So we have opportunities. If you have new ideas for the special issues, also let us know. These are some of the latest titles, and you have seen earlier or maybe on websites. Let us know. 7 books are on the way. These are already published titles. We have Roy Chen in the room. He's also the lead editor of one of the books that I really enjoyed working with him. Also, more books here. They are with the focus of international, aspect of education, student mobility, internationalization, teaching, learning, looking into community colleges, 4 years colleges, and also PWI, HBCUs. That's the focus of our research. And also we have open access book, meaning you can download at any time without any restrictions. You can also, order hard copies if you want, but there are 4 titles, open access, published by Star Scholars Network. More titles on the way. We usually partner with the university, press, or outside organizations for the open access, or partnering with the publishing house. We have a heavy workload. Roughly, I would say 6,000 manuscripts come to our end every year around the globe, representing 55 plus countries. We have a long list, 3,000 plus reviewers who serve on those editorial board of the journals of the book project. You are more than welcome to join any of the editorial board of the journals or upcoming book projects. You can email me or one of the editors in the room. Also, we have a global essay contest. Anyone, anywhere can write in 8 different languages. This is annual contest. The deadline is October 30th. Every year, you can write in English, Hindi, French, Russian, Spanish, German, and Arabic. There are guidelines. You can find those guidelines on the Star Scholars website. And also, we appreciate our sponsoring institutions. These essays are in 4 different categories for this, home student, international student, faculty, and staff, whoever brings their cross-cultural stories. We also have a Millennium Scholar Program. This is for mentees. A scholar represented or selected by the dean or chairs join this program. Usually we take 35 scholars every year, and Lisa is the director of this special program. We have several other open access program that could be of your area of interest. You can join. Also, I'd like to remind you the other events. We have the 1st of March on publication opportunities. We have March 22nd, April 5th, 20th, 18th, and June 15th. These are our upcoming sessions. Okay, I stop here and then take any questions you have, any observation notes that you'd like to share. I know you might have some questions for our guest, the speakers. Okay, Dr. Brooks.
Just a quick question. Is there any way you can share those upcoming dates in an email, or is there somewhere I can go to get access to that? I'd like to share that with my colleagues as well at the institution.
Of course, yes. I will be emailing you with a copy of recording and then also upcoming sessions.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Krishna, I would just like to say that I've really enjoyed the conversations in the chat almost as much as the verbal comments and reflections of the speakers today, because I think one thing it does is really highlight that internationalization is not a monolithic process, right? And the one thing that we know about internationalization is that it really depends on your approach, the really unique institutional profiles and histories of those institutions, and how you translate that into your own internationalization on your own campus. And I'm speaking specifically for our HBCU colleagues that are here. Having worked at 2 HBCUs and now a PWI, I know there is always that resource issue. And so and let's say that's the elephant in the room. No one here does not understand why internationalization is important in any of the various strategies that we've been talking about, whether it's international student recruitment, inbound students, or outbound, study abroad, or whatever. So we all get it, right? The thing that we don't all got is the resources to invest in what we all know to be true, right? And I found that coming to Emerson, which is a reasonably resourced institution, and in 7 years, we went from having 1 faculty-led study abroad program to 30 faculty-led study abroad programs. We went from increasing 300 international student enrollment to now almost 850 international students. And we've moved almost 60 faculty members through a faculty development studio, where we work with them on internationalization of the curriculum and also providing them with other inclusive pedagogical practices for curriculum, right? But this has all been done with a bit of intentionality. Not every institution has internationalization as a strategic priority of the institution. That also is leverage and currency and momentum. And so this conversation about the importance of it, we all know the importance of it. And just the chats is just so powerful. Just what I'm reading in these chats, the various strategies and things that you all are doing. And it's challenging to do that when internationalization is not an articulated priority of the institution. It's a lot easier to do it when it's embedded into other strategic priorities. So I just want to applaud and take this moment to applaud all of our colleagues that are here, whether you're at an HBCU or not, but also I know how difficult and how challenging it can be. My first foray into international higher education was 20 years ago at Dillard as Associate Dean of Global Studies, and I was an office of 1. I used to ask myself, what am I dean of? I'm dean of myself, and running around trying to negotiate and partner with other stakeholders on the campus who were really amen corner to it. And then we had to figure out how to raise money, how to move money around, how to be nimble, how to define it being internationalization for ourselves. And we continue to do that. And I know a lot of you are doing that where you are. So I'm just taking this moment to applaud you for what you do, and looking forward to hearing more about it. This book is supposedly the inaugural book, but we all need to write more, and we need to engage more and tell our story as HBCU. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Okay. Any other final thoughts, comments? We are almost top of our, hour of the session. Okay, thank you so much. So that's all we have for this evening. You will be in touch. We'll be in touch with upcoming events. So in a couple of days, you will receive a copy of recording as well as the upcoming events or invitation for the next event. Let us know if there are any other topics that you'd like to cover for our fall webinar series. You will have a option to put your suggestion in the form right after the session. So again, thank you very much. Enjoy your rest of the day. Thank you. Good day.